Okay, so I think we are ready to start. It's 1 minute past 1 o'clock. A very warm welcome to all of you. From my side, my name is Kerstin Schilcher. I work for the Austrian Energy Agency and I will moderate this session. And I do this from my office in Vienna. So hello from Vienna. I've been working for the Austrian Energy Agency for over 15 years now. And I'm a senior expert for consumer behavior. And currently, I'm involved in a number of consumer-centered projects, mainly EU-funded H2020 projects, which focus on the identification of vulnerable groups and measures to address vulnerable consumers. So once again, it is my pleasure and privilege to welcome you all to the session, which is about energy agencies supporting households and communities through the energy transition with a focus on behavior change and advisory services. The idea and preparation of this session was facilitated through the European Energy Network. The European Energy Network is also co-organizer of this conference, and the ENI is a voluntary network of energy agencies. And many people have contributed and prepared this session. I just name a few. Irina from the French Energy Agency, Irmeli from the Finnish Energy Agency, Rebecca from Behaviour from the Netherlands, and Luis from ADEME from Portugal, and so on and so on. Next slide, please, Adrianna. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we move on. I can see already that the chat has been introduced as well, and our technical support has written something in there. It is already afternoon, so most of you have had a couple of sessions already. If you do want to speak, you have to actively unmute yourself. The same goes for the camera, but this is mostly applicable for moderator and speakers in the session. And if you don't speak, then please switch off your web camera. This session is being recorded and is available later on through the conference website. And if you do have questions to ask, please use the chat function. This has worked very well through the earlier sessions, which I attended already this morning. Okay, Adrianna, please, the next slide. So, well, we can see we have over 35 participants already. So thank you very much for joining this session today. Just a few words from my side. It goes without saying that behavioral and lifestyle changes are of great importance in achieving the energy transition. And in order to sustain this transition, we cannot only rely on energy policies and technologies alone. We have to integrate us as humans, as citizens, consumers, and this will play an increasingly more important role in changing our behaviors as well. User actions are a key success of this challenging transition, and behavior insights need to be taken into account in energy policies. We as energy agencies, I'm representing the Austrian Energy Agency here, are engaging in supporting citizens in our countries on energy issues, and I think our role will become even more important in the years to come in that respect. There will be an even more increased need for education, awareness raising, advice and support to encourage greener consumer choices, energy choices, as well as behavior change programs to promote this more sustainable habits. Most of you will not be so familiar with the European Energy Network. It is a voluntary network with currently over 25 national energy agencies as members in and outside of the EU. We are a very diverse bunch. We are responsible for the planning, management, and review of national research, development, demonstration, and dissemination of programs. And we are at the forefront of Europe's drive to improve energy efficiency, increase the use of renewable energy, and to mitigate the damaging effects of climate change. And in doing this, we're trying to ensure this transition is just. And what is very important, I think, for all of our members in the ENR is that we act as a bridge between national, regional, and local activities and those of the European community. That is a very important aspect of our work, and that's also why we are collaborating through the European Energy Network. So our strengths include our unique impartial perspective, our good and deep understanding of market and consumer needs, and our conveying power. We do have a very strong record, individual as national energy agencies, but also in collaboration through projects, through collaboration, innovation in cross-sectoral, multidisciplinary expertise and practical experience of implementing government policies. And we have worked together in consortium on countless EU projects and continue to do so. This year, the ENR is headed by the French Agency for Ecological Transition, ADEME. They're holding the presidency in 2021. And the priority themes which they have chosen are aligned with the European Green Deal, focusing on the renovation wave with an emphasis on energy poverty and just transition, as well as on industry decarbonization within the framework of the national recovery and resilience plans. Behavior changes in these areas offer some of the greatest potentials, from the improvement of energy efficiency at our homes, buildings, renovations, but also enhanced energy efficiency in the context of industry. We also have a session on that later this afternoon. Next slide, please, Adriana. We are working. Can you give me the next slide, please, and then jump back because I want to have a look at the working groups, Adriana. Yeah, the working groups, please. The backbone of the European Energy Network are the working groups where experts come together and exchange their experience, develop projects, international projects on different thematic themes such as buildings, labeling and eco-design, energy efficiency, transport, renewables, and monitoring. That really is the backbone of the work of the European Energy Network, and working and developing EU projects is very important, and it's also gives us the opportunity to sustain our collaboration. Would you please look at the agenda for me, Adriana? You have to go one back. Thank you very much. So we are already right in the session. Giving you a few words on the background and context of this session. In a minute, Irmeli Mikkonen from the Finnish Energy Agency will give us a brief overview of the working group on behavior change, followed up by a presentation by Adrianna Threpsiadi from the Energy Saving Trust in the UK on presenting of a catalogue and analysis of best practice examples which have been collected through our network. And after that, we go into a panel discussion, presentation of best practices by energy agencies. We have, out of the catalogue, we have chosen 4 different best practice examples covering different thematic schemes and programs. One in regard to broader awareness raising programs, one in tailored advice support programs, one more in educational programs, and one in reference to research programs. Our presenters have the opportunity to give us a short presentation between 5 to 7 minutes. You have the opportunity to ask questions through the chat function, but we have also as a group prepared a couple of questions which we would like to kind of ask in a panel setting and go through the different moderators, but please use the chat function if you do have questions as well, of course. That was all from my side for the introduction, and I would like to introduce Irmeli Mikkonen to you now from Motiva, the Finnish energy agency. She has been working in the field of behavior change for a very long time, and she has also headed the working group on behavior change for a long time. She has been incremental of developing the Behave conference actually and ensuring that the European Energy Network is always a part of that. So thank you very much from the whole team of the European Energy Network, Irmeli, for all your work over the years, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kerstin. And good afternoon from sunny Helsinki to all of you. A brief introduction to Behavior Change Working Group. Well, the group was established in 2005, so we have been working now 16th year, and we have members in the working group from altogether 15 ENR member organizations out of 25. And as Kerstin mentioned, we have the ENR network through the Behavior Change Working Group. We have initiated and carried on the organizing or co-organizing the Behave conferences since 2009. And today we are in the sixth Behave conference. The aim of our working group is to enhance knowledge on behavioral insights in programs and projects we deliver on national and European level, and also to add value to our existing work through communication, coordination, and collaboration of national activities, but also those of the initiated and funded by European Commission and other relevant international bodies. And what we do to achieve this aim, we follow policy and program developments on European level, but also beyond Europe, and especially now the European Green Deal is in focus, and what they are we are expecting from that program and policy, and all this on related to behavioral change and awareness raising. We also exchange information and share experiences related to behavior insights in our campaign, program, and project delivery. And one example is this catalogue that will be presented in a few minutes. We design and implement joint projects to promote behavior change and also good practices, and to bring about a significant reduction in energy end use. And now we would also like to offer the Behavior Change Working Group as a platform to collaboration for wider collaboration between our agencies, but also with social scientists and other relevant networks. And we very much look forward to that collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Irmeli, for giving us an insight to the work of Working Group on Behavior Change. I would like to introduce now our colleague from the Energy Saving Trust, Adrianna Threpsiadi. She will give us a short presentation of the catalog analysis of best practice examples. It showcases a wide range of best practices on behavior insights in energy efficiency from many different agencies in Europe, and it demonstrates the diversity of the work we do. As I said, we are a diverse bunch. So the floor is yours. I can see your screen already shared. Adrianna, please go ahead.
Great, thank you, Kerstin. Thanks very much. So, as Kerstin mentioned, in preparation of this session, the ENR member organisations that were involved in delivering today's workshop have also put together a catalogue, and it's a catalogue of best practice examples of behaviour change programmes that are being delivered by ENR member organisations. This catalogue is made up of fact sheets, so there's one fact sheet per behaviour change programme, and alongside this we have done an analysis of the programmes and I will share some highlights from the catalogue and the analysis with you today. So how did we go about putting together this catalogue? Well, we approached our ENR member organisations and asked them to submit good practice examples of their behaviour change programmes. So we collected 30 examples, which was a very good number, from around 13 different countries across Europe. And these were programs that are either being delivered at the moment or had recently concluded. So to do the analysis, we took these 30 examples that we collected and we clustered them. And we came up with these 4 groups that you can see here. And we clustered them according to the type of program that they are and also the aim of the program. So first up, we have the broad awareness raising campaigns. So these are the information campaigns that go out to a large section of the population, and they're all about increasing awareness of energy efficiency or other sustainability topic. There's the tailored advice programs. So these are programs where people are given detailed advice and specific information that suits their needs and their circumstances. So it's not a general message, it's very specific to them. And the other category we came up with was educational programs, where we grouped training courses, workshops, educational programs in schools that include gamification as well. And in the final group, we categorized the research projects. So these weren't projects that are directly aiming to change behavior, but rather research, doing research into how to encourage behavior change in this sector. And why did we do the analysis? Well, first and foremost, we wanted to understand the diversity of projects that are being delivered by ENR members across our network. We wanted to understand what the common characteristics are in terms of success factors and challenges. And of particular interest was to see whether these programs have been using insights from behavioral science, psychology, sociology, academia in general, and whether these insights have contributed to their success. And finally, we wanted to create a resource that we could share within our network and encourage our member organisations to learn from one another. So the first category we created was the broad awareness raising campaigns, and we saw that most of the programs that we collected for the catalogue fell into this category. So this seems to be the most common type of behaviour change program being delivered at the moment. And they tend to focus on a large section of the population, but we did see some examples of where they target more specific groups like businesses or professionals. And there was also quite a wide scope in terms of what's covered in these programs, so from mobility to energy efficiency. And some examples here of programs that we collected in the catalogue are Italy Class A, which was a big campaign to increase basic knowledge of energy efficiency in Italy, and also EPC gives value to your home in Portugal, where people were encouraged to look at the information that's on their energy performance certificate and understand that better. So the analysis showed that clear audience targeting was an important success factor for these types of programs, as was having a relevant message and knowing when and how to deliver that message was also important. And some of the programs mentioned the use of some behavioural science insights, which was quite interesting. So, for example, there was the Make Heat Simple program, in Switzerland, where they were trying to influence the use of remote heating controls. And they used psychology and research to identify the receptiveness of their target audience to changing their behaviour, and then use that to inform the design of their programme. And some challenges that we saw in this category were about trying to reach lots of different segments of the population with one message. That can be very difficult. And also some of these programs tend to be short term, and that makes it harder for them to achieve their aims in a limited time frame. In the second category, we placed what we called the tailored advice programs. And most of the advice programs tended to focus on energy users in the home. And we saw that the most common way of delivering advice was over the phone, as well as online interactive tools. They were mentioned quite frequently, and a bit less so face-to-face advice, although that is also another way that advice is delivered. And some examples of these types of programs are Consumer Energy Advice Finland and the FAIR program, which we'll hear more about from our panelists. And other examples are the NEST program that is delivered in Wales in the UK. And this offers free advice on energy efficiency, on renewables, and it has a particular focus on supporting vulnerable consumers. And we saw that some of the programs in this category also used insights from behavioural science to inform their design. So, for example, the I Ditch My Car program in France, so they were interested in understanding what motivates people to change their mode of transport, and how can you form new habits, and then how are those habits maintained in the long term. So to help them understand that, they did a bibliographical research of previous studies, and they did their own focus groups and customer surveys and used those insights to inform the design. And in the FAIR program, which was supporting people with home renovations, they looked at how the various stages of life, for example, having children or getting older, how those phases of life affect people's decision to renovate their home. And some success factors in this group we noticed were that being able to offer the program long term helped, because the program becomes established and well known to the public. And in way of challenges, there was although there's assessment of the short-term impacts, the long-term impact of the advice is not as well understood, because it's not monitored very far into the future due to resource constraints. And next we had the educational programs, which included workshops and training programs. So here we had programs, for example, the Learning Your Way to a Greener Future in Malta, where school children used an interactive video game to learn about energy efficiency and renewable energy. There's a screenshot there in the bottom left of the video game. And there were others like Energy Ambassadors in Hungary, where there was an annual competition for university students, and they had to come up with new and fun ways to talk to people about energy efficiency. And the winner of the competition was then awarded the opportunity to go into a school and deliver an interactive lesson on energy efficiency to school children. And in this group of programs, we also saw some interesting use of behavioural insight. For example, Green Wedge program in the Netherlands, They were offering training to suppliers of sustainable energy products, and they were trying to help them communicate with their customers better. So what they did was they did a review of decision-making theory and created a catalogue of the different styles of decision-making. And then the suppliers would learn about the different styles, and that would help them understand how their customers make decisions, and then help them understand how to adapt their communication with their customers. And some learnings from this group were that gamification is a very well received and popular way to get messages across. But in the challenges, again, similar to the advice programs, with these types of programs, it is hard to understand the long-term impact of the intervention, because currently there isn't much monitoring done very far into the future. Finally, we have the research programs. So, as I mentioned earlier, these programs aren't aiming to change behaviour directly, but rather generate findings that will inform future behaviour change programs. And some examples of those are from the Netherlands, the Personal and Upscalable Approaches project, where they are doing research to understand how to encourage people to do home renovations. And there's the Exploring the Experience of Home Renovation project in France, where they were doing research to understand the long-term impact of a home renovation on people who live in the home that's going through that renovation. And these research projects generate some really useful outcomes. So all of these learnings are then taken and used to refine the service offering, inform how the advice should be delivered, and also inform how the program itself should be marketed and promoted. So it's very useful input. So in conclusion, our analysis showed that there is a very broad range of behaviour change program being delivered across our ENR members. We saw that insights from psychology and behavioural science are being used currently, more and more now, I think, but not consistently and not by everyone. We saw that monitoring long-term impact of interventions is a challenge and doesn't happen very much across the programs, and this is mainly due to lack of resources rather than not seeing the value. I think everyone does see the value, but they aren't able to do it. And finally, having commitment from multiple stakeholders like national and local government is important for success and financial sustainability of the programs. So that concludes the overview, and we will share the link to the catalogue in the chat.
Thank you very much, Adrianna, for this very interesting overview. I have the printout of the report already here. It's very interesting. It has over 60 pages. The link has been posted in the chat already. It is also available for download on our ENR website. So please go and have a look. You will find many different examples across Europe. And I think Adrianna has given you a very good insight of what you can expect from that report. Thank you very much. Well, let's dive into our presentations and into our panel discussion. First up, we have Valérie Martin from the French Energy Agency. While I introduce you, you can already start sharing your presentation, please. So very welcome, Valérie. She holds a postgraduate degree in environmental economics, and she joined the French Energy Agency called French Agency for Ecological Transition in 1993. She held various positions before being appointed head of the Citizens Mobilization and Media Department in 2008, and in this role she is in charge of steering the campaigns on energy renovation and the circular economy. She also pilots the agency Energy's consumer strategy, which was published in early 2019. And she's also involved in steering actions related to responsible communication and marketing, and co-authored quite a lot of collective works already. Welcome, Valérie, and the floor is yours. Please share your screen on full mode, and welcome.
Sorry. I hope it will work. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, Kerstin. Well, maybe I can start by, first of all, to explain to you why a campaign on energy renovation. In France, buildings are responsible for around 45% of our energy consumption and more than a quarter of our greenhouse gas emission. Furthermore, France has nearly 6 million poorly insulated homes which need to be renovated as a priority. So energy renovation is more than ever a government priority in France. In April 2018, the government launched the energy renovation plan for buildings, which is in line with the objectives of the climate plan, setting carbon neutrality for 2050 as a target. One of the plan's ambition was also to create a common brand and signature for renovation, bringing together all relevant public and private stakeholders and create trust within individuals and households to carry out the renovation works. The Ministry of Ecological and Solidarity Transition and the Ministry for Territorial Cohesion at the time, as well as ADEME, therefore launched a major 3-year mobilization campaign. This campaign involves also many partners such as the National Housing Agency or the National Agency for Housing Information and even local authorities. The common signature was created as a fair public service. Fair means do in French. And this dynamic verb really calls for action, and its acronym summarizes the objective: facilitate for A, accompany for A, inform for A, for energy renovation for the R and the E. Well, so as I said, this common signature was created as a fair public service. I've explaining to you that fair means do in French. And this signature is accompanied at the time by a unifying slogan, all eco-comfortable, which highlights the benefits of energy renovation. The FAIR brand aims to make public service of information and advice on home energy renovation recognizable for citizens and to involve all public and private actors in the renovation. To clarify, the public service of information and advice on home energy renovation is grouped under the common banner of the FAIR network, which represents more than 300 advice centers throughout the country. These centers thus benefit from national visibility. All advisors are known as a FAIR advisor to facilitate their identification and make this public renovation service more visible. The FAIR advisors provide free, neutral, and independent advice adapted to each case to guide households towards renovation work. The other slide, please. So which target groups? The campaign was designed and produced by an agency called La Chose. The rollout of the campaign was carried out over the 3 years and targeted several audiences: private individuals, professional in the renovation sectors, and local authorities to help them undertake energy renovation of their own building and better mobilize their citizens in the renovation of their home. Our wish was to get all the stakeholders involved in energy renovation on board in order to promote massification. Well, in order to facilitate the visibility of the public service in relation to other actors, 2 variations of the signature have been created: fair with and committed to fair. The main idea, by bringing together all the stakeholders under the same banner, is to promote and make visible the synergy between public and private actors to accelerate the renovation effort in France. You can see some of the press release we've made. The next slide, please. So what kind of what means have been deployed in order to mobilize citizens, but also building and property companies and local authorities? Our action is organized around 3 axes. First, mobilizing the public through a major campaign to promote energy renovation in the media, TV, of which you can find the direct link on the slideshow that we will transmit to you if you are interested in. Of course, press and digital tools. Initially, the campaign used a touch of humor and was deployed to the general public to make people feel less uncomfortable by affirming that discomfort in the home is not inevitable and to make fair appears as the natural solution to this problem. This message is supported by a unifying slogan: everyone's ecologically comfortable, tous éco-confortables, which evolved at the beginning of 2020 into everything for my renovation, tout pour ma rénov, in order to have a better understanding of the fair brand and its subject matter, and above all, which is very important, to promote a better articulation with Ma Prime Rénov, the new major financial state aid. So we have a little bit transformed this message. This campaign has been repeated regularly since 2018 on the various channels, and a specific wave have been also deployed in 2019 and 2020 to highlight particular themes: the new financial aid from the state Ma Prime Rénov, energy management, electrical eco-action, and the promotion of the fair advisors. Secondly, several tools are available and enabled to take action through a dedicated website, fair.gov.fr, a genuine service website with a .gov format to reinforce the trust of individuals. These websites bring together a range of services and advice for individuals. Contact details for the nearest fair advisor, contact details for company with a special certification, recognized guarantor of the environment, the aid simulator advice on simple action throughout the renovation process, and a form of reporting renovation fraud and helping individuals victims of fraud. At last, today, more than 6 million connections since September 2018. So we have also a telephone number to contact the appropriate fair space, information guides that provide initial answer to individuals wishing to undertake a renovation, and a dedicated Facebook page, Fair. Finally, the third axis is partnership, to enable us to multiply our messages to audiences different from those we would normally reach. For example, the TV show Plus belle la vie, do-it-yourself shops with Laura Merlin, and so on. The post-test evaluation carried out in 2018, 19, and 20 showed that the campaign was well perceived, well understood, and encouraged action, which is the most important thing for us. This campaign meets the expectations of individuals who have a renovation project, and a survey carried out at the end of November 2020 shows that the awareness has increased to 25%, although we must emphasize the attribution of this result to the neutral and free advice service. Thank you very much for your attention, and sorry for my English.
Thank you very much, Valerie, for this very interesting input. Before we move on, we have one question in the chat. I think maybe we can address that, Valerie. It is from our colleague Paul. Did you also address specifically real estate companies during your campaign work? You have to unmute yourself, Valerie, if you speak again. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we have addressed specifically real estate companies, as well as other companies with the special program Engaged with Fair that we have made. And if you want some more information, I can give you it, Mrs. Endergag.
Okay, thank you very much. So we can directly contact you, I suppose, as well, if there are any further questions. I would like to move on to the next presentation by Leila Timonen from Motiva in our Tailored Advice Support Program category. It is consumer energy advice free of charge advice for Finnish households. Leila, you're free to share your screen already while I introduce you. Leila works as a communication manager in Motiva, which is 100% state-owned company promoting energy efficiency, renewable and sustainability in Finland. Leila's main tasks are development of energy advice for consumers with energy authorities and Motiva's experts, cooperation with stakeholders and networks, consumer communication and campaign planning and implementation. And she has been working for Motiva for over 10 years now. Thank you, Leila, for giving this presentation, and take it away, please.
And thank you for the opportunity to talk about energy advice in Finland. Let's see, I can also change the slides. Energy advice has been offered to Finns since 2010 and even earlier, but in this form over 1 decade with a slightly different forms. Over the years, regional actors have varied, and of course, counseling methods have also evolved. In general, however, we have implemented counseling consistently with this formula, and actually we have implemented actions in all categories that were presented in the ENR report. So in this presentation, I will shortly tell you how we have organized advice service in Finland, a little bit about our methods and channels and topics and target groups. Let's move on. Energy Authority is funding energy advice in Finland, and we provide unbiased information about the means available to improve energy efficiency and the use of renewable energy. It is one way of promoting emission reductions, and we try to assist consumers to take one step towards increased energy efficiency. Motiva is acting as a national actor here in energy advice for consumers, and we are we do have 11 organizations around Finland in 18 regions that are working between 2018 and 2023 as advisors, not only for consumers, but also for municipalities and small and medium-sized enterprises. Those organizations are, they verify, they are energy agencies, regional or municipal operators and consulting firms. So they do have very different kind of backgrounds. Some of them has done energy advice for a decade or longer, and we have also quite new partners around the country. Something about the methods and channels. Motiva develops and maintains the materials and tools needed for counseling. We train advisors and create opportunities to network with each other and also with stakeholders. And this will ensure that the content of the advice is similar across the country. We also develop and maintain guidance material for households and housing companies. And most of the material is on the websites nowadays, but also some brochures are needed, especially when advisors meet people at the events. Well, of course, as we all know, there hasn't been very many events lately, but hopefully we can attend again next fall in live events. We have begun monitoring the counseling with regional advisors so that we can assess its effectiveness, and I suppose we will get results later this year. And main topics. Counseling is traditionally divided into the promotion of energy efficiency and renewable energy, and nowadays demand response is coming up. It's a relatively new topic. At the moment, we are increasing people's awareness and create a basis for flexible electricity use. This issue requires more attention and resources and especially cooperation with actors providing new services for households. I think this is a new way for consumers to perceive and manage their electricity consumption in that way that balances production and consumption, and also the climate perspective and the price paid by the consumer. So it's quite complicated issue that we are having here, and I hope that we will gain results in a couple of years, I would say. Most popular topics at the moment, surprisingly, water consumption and especially hot water is one of the most asked questions and also most searched issue from Motiva's website. Still, heating systems and phase out of oil heating has been quite strongly on our desks because there is a new subsidy available for single-family houses. Solar power also, especially solar electricity production with solar power is quite quite new, but also quite gains lots of interest everywhere in Finland actually at the moment. And we have new housing companies coming to this market also, so it's a new issue there. Everyday energy savings, electricity cost especially is asked a lot. There are some examples of our ongoing campaigns and themes. These two, solar power and monitoring electricity consumption, I talked about them earlier, and newsletter for households and consumers. That's a new way of trying to reach consumers, and it's based on the experience of a pilot project monitoring the impact of advice and information management on electric consumption. So there's only 2 issues that we have published, so it's not very large subscriptions yet, but I'm sure it will gain. And from the pilot project, we got really good experience and results also, how to focus households to electricity consumption and how to help them to save energy. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Leila. So far, no questions in the chat for you, but I do have one quick question. I'm curious about the last point you made in regard to the newsletter for households and consumers, because we made the same experience that this kind of tools still work very well, and we didn't think so. For a couple of years, it was like this very old school if you do that, but we have realized that we reach quite a lot of consumers with that. How do you follow up on actually knowing that you do reach them? Because just sending out the newsletter, then you don't know if you have reached them. Do you track that if they open it, or the links? How do you?
We do have very good system for that. This program we use for creating and sending the newsletters, it gives all the details: who has opened, how many times, what links she or he has followed, what were the hotspots of the newsletter. So it's very well covered how we evaluate those letters, even in such a personal level, actually. So the results in the pilot project were really astonishing for me also. I never in my dreams even thought that it would be possible to gain at least 50% of the receivers opened and read the newsletter, and even up to 90%. Of course, it was a little bit different kind of group, because they were voluntarily come part of the research program. So they probably had a little bit higher attention to read also and get the information. But even now, when we have just regular readers wherever in Finland, we still get up to 40% of opening and reading of the newsletter. So it's
Thank you, Leila, for elaborating on that. I think it is interesting in the lesson which we can take away from that. Thank you, Leila, for your presentation. We're moving on now to a colleague of mine from the Austrian Energy Agency, Altan Sahin. Altan, please go ahead and share your screen. He's presenting a project in the category of educational programs. It is called e-Radl, a modal shift car to e-bike pilot campaign, which actually Altan and I together were rolling out. It was our first project where we worked together, and since then he couldn't get rid of me. I do work with him. I really like it. And he has a background on environmental and bioresource management at the University of Vienna. He has been working for the Austrian Energy Agency for a number of years now, and has mainly been involved in projects that focus on consumer behavior. He has been involved in numerous information campaigns and the creation of training materials for different target groups, apprentices, pupils, students, very diverse, and currently he is very much involved in two big EU-funded H2020 projects. One of them we are coordinating in regard to a campaign of replacing boilers in Austria, and another one in regard to energy poor households. So Altan, welcome to this session, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kerstin, for the introduction. Hello, everybody. Can you see my slides? Okay.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. Thanks. Today, I would like to introduce you to our project e-Radl, in which we tried to use e-bikes or pedelecs as a key to sustainably change the mobility behavior of end consumers in the long term. Specifically, we tried to encourage a switch from cars to pedelecs as the main means of transport with this project. And the main idea behind this project was that basically the mobility behavior of most people heavily depends on their habits and their daily routine. This means that it's quite difficult to start here and lead to long-term changes in their behavior without any major disruptions happening in their lives. Such a disruption could be, for example, a key moment like moving to another city or gaining access to new modes of public transport and so on. So this means that this kind of key moments play an important role in breaking mobility routines. So with our project e-Radl, we organized a campaign with which we tried to create such a key moment ourselves by giving people in our target region the opportunity to participate in a low threshold trial for pedelecs, and thereby investigating whether this would lead to a long-term change in their mobility behavior or not. And now I try to shortly summarize for you the whole process behind our campaign. The campaign itself was designed as a 12-week-long test phase. It ran in spring 2019 in 4 municipalities in the federal state of Burgenland in Austria, which has a relative high share of commuters. And the trials themselves were always available in 2-week blocks. So each participant was always able to lend out e-bike for the trial for 2 weeks and use it in this period. And for the conduction of the campaign, we had bike dealers as local partners in those municipalities. Those bike dealers were responsible for handing out, taking back and maintaining those bikes during the campaign. We ourselves were responsible for the management in the background, allocating the bikes to all registered participants and doing the contact to the direct contact to the participants, and also handling the coordination with the bike dealers. And the bikes were provided to us through manufacturers in Austria who also participated in the project as partners via their Austrian association. And for the project itself, we used a voluntary sampling approach because we wanted to give as many different people from the target region the opportunity to participate and test out and pedelec for themselves. So we didn't use any purposive samples or defined any criteria by which we selected participants. We tried to keep it as open as possible. And the only requirement to participate was the possession of a driving license, since we wanted to encourage the switch from cars to pedelecs as a means of transport, and also the necessity to complete a questionnaire when registering for this campaign. This questionnaire was part of our scientific monitoring for the project, since we also tried to evaluate the long-term effect our trials had on the behavior of our participants. So in total, we ran 3 online surveys in parallel to our campaign. The first one being the one on the registration being mandatory, and the second and third one being voluntary. The second one was sent out to all participants right after they completed their own personal trial. And the third one was sent out to everyone roughly 4 months after the completion of the trial. And we also organized a prize raffle in parallel to our questionnaires to increase the motivation of everyone to participate in our surveys. And everyone who finished all 3 questionnaires was automatically signed into this raffle, and this way they were able to win some vouchers for biking equipment. The return rate for our questionnaires was quite high. 83% of all participants finished at least 2 of our surveys, and 69% finished all 3 of them. So we were quite satisfied with the result here. And the surveys were basically our means to analyze the perceptions, attitudes, and the mobility behavior of all participants before they actually participated in our campaign, and tested the pedelec for 2 weeks themselves, and compared them with the results in later phases, and see if something actually changed in the meantime, and if our trial had any effect on their attitudes. And those are just some impressions from some happy participants during the handover of their pedelec. The we also gave participants the possibility to give us feedback during our questionnaires. It was quite positive. Most people were really happy with their bikes and said that everything ran quite well. With our broad team, we fortunately were able to offer them a comprehensive service and quite little effort for the participation. And 90% stated they would actually participate again in a similar action. And now I would like to shortly summarize our outcomes for you. In total, 98 people participated in our trial campaign, with 67% of them being male and 33% being female. The average age was 58 years, and the educational background was, compared to the Austrian average, above average. And we were also able to reach our target group with being car drivers with our campaign, as 58% of all respondents of the first questionnaire stated that they had used their car as a driver almost every day before the trial. And with our service, we also tried to gain insights on how intensely they actually used the pedelecs during the 2 weeks trials. And the results showed us that they actually used them quite often. On average, each participant traveled 1.5 routes daily during the 2-week trials. And many of them also used it for their way to work. So 24% of all participants stated that they used their pedelec to travel to their working destination on every occasion during those 2 weeks. And other important travel reasons for the usage of the pedelec was to travel to leisure activities, cycling tours, of course, also doing groceries. And what we also tried to measure with our surveys was the association of different means of transport with different travel reasons or situations. So, for example, we try to see, okay, with which means of transport do our participants directly associate with picking something up from the post station, or visiting the neighbor city, or going to work. And our surveys showed us that there was a clear shift between our first survey before the trial and our first survey and our third survey, which we conducted after the trial phase, as there was a heavy shift from the car being the first association for many travel routes and the e-bike. So there was, for example, a heavy shift for the travel to leisure activities here, or visiting people in other vicinities, and which did not change very much were travel routes where they had to transport people, of course, because this is not really possible with an e-bike, but still there was a clear shift, there was a clear change in the perceptions of the participants. And our results also showed us that the campaign was especially effective on changing the perception of, or the intention of, people who already had a latent interest in buying a pedelec before the trial. Because in our final survey, we asked how many people actually had already bought one after they participated, and 80 out of 67 people told us they actually had bought one already, and 30 still intended to do so. So we were quite happy with the result, because those proportional to the absolute amount of participants, this still means that 20% actually bought an e-bike after they participated in our campaign. In conclusion, we believe that actions of a similar concept are very well suited to give people an opportunity to see how they can integrate new means of transport into their daily life, and to reduce reservations that might be there, and maybe move the last hurdle out of the way for a buying decision. And with that, I'm basically finished with my presentation. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Altan. We worked a lot on this project. It was actually a very small project, but we had to invest a lot of time, and we had a lot of in-kind contributions for our different partners. I just want to pick up on one point which Adrianna from the Energy Saving Trust mentioned as well, which came out when they were doing their report on the examples of case studies, is that a lot of these projects have a very short running period, and then it is difficult to monitor the long-term effects. I mean, we were running into that as well. So maybe you could elaborate on our restrictions on that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. The total project runtime for this one was 12 months. And we had the difficulty that we had to find a good time period where we can conduct our trials, because of course the people, let's say, they need suitable weather for actually using their e-bikes, and the summer period is always bad because people use this time period to to go on vacation, stuff like that. And so basically we were forced to do this in spring, and also to shorten the duration to 3 months in a row, because at first we actually thought about splitting it up into 2 time windows, having a first trial phase and then a second trial phase again later on. But since we were basically forced to finish the whole project, including the evaluation, in 12 months, and we wanted to see the long-term effect, so it was necessary that there was a long time between the completion of the trial phase and the conduction of the final survey. So this short time window for the project itself basically restricted us quite heavily in the time windows we had for the trials, because there were also, unfortunately, let's say, trial blocks of 2 weeks where the weather was quite bad. That was also feedback. Some participants sent us that they simply were not able to use the bike as often as they intended to do because the weather was just not good enough. But yeah, so there were also restrictions in our case.
Yeah, thank you very much, Altan. I think that is very important and something which we are discussing with funding programs in Austria as well, that if you want to do a proper evaluation, then you need a little bit a longer period of implementing a project, because setting the scene for all of this takes quite a lot of time already, implementing it, and then to evaluate that all in 1 year is a big challenge. So I think this is something which we face at least quite often, and we would like to have some more awareness here also for the funding programs, I think. Thank you very much, Altan. We are heading swiftly to our last presentation in the category of research programs. We have Torben here, Torben Emmerling. Hello, welcome. You can start sharing your screen while I introduce you. He will give us a presentation on behavior science informed catalog for increased energy efficiency in SMEs. Torben is the founder and managing partner of Effective Advisory and the author of the DRIVE framework for behavior insights in strategy and public body. He is also a founding member and non-executive director on the board of the Global Association of Applied Behavioral Scientists, a board member of the Behavioral Insights for Better Politics and Societies, and a seasoned lecturer, keynote speaker, and published author in that subject area. And in the last 18 months, he and his team have been partnering with the Swiss Federal Office of Energy to research and design behavior science-informed interventions to increase energy efficiency and sustainable sources of energy in SMEs. Welcome, Torben, and please take it away. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Kerstin. Thank you for this kind introduction and for the opportunity to speak to everyone today about behavioral science insights for increased energy efficiencies in SMEs. I'm here to present a project that has kept us busy over the past 14 months during COVID, during phases of increased uncertainty and complexity, but nevertheless, we managed to complete a very nice and successful project that we're proud to present today on behalf of the Federal Office of Energy and Paul Anderek, who led this research and project group from the Federal Office of Energy, as well as myself as a representative of Effective Advisory. This has truly been a collaborative partnership we had, and we used to set behavioral science on the agenda of the Swiss Federal Office of Energy and the many other players that have been involved in this project. I was asked to keep this very short today, and I will do so by guiding you all through this process and through the results that we've achieved over this period of time. We start with the results. So we presented a final report about behavioral insights for demand-side energy policy with a focus on demand-side energy policy for SMEs, or in Switzerland we say KMU, kleine und mittlere Unternehmen, or small, medium-sized enterprises. This is special as most of the interventions that you see in behavioral science and informed energy policy have focused on household behaviors or individual behaviors. In this case, we deliberately focus on the context of industry usage, so industry and service sector in Switzerland that is, as in many countries around the world, one of the largest consumers of energy and therefore one of the largest producers of CO2 emissions. What was the target of the project? It was, simply put, the research and development of behavioral science insights for the implementation of voluntary demand-side energy policies for increasing energy efficiency and the use of renewable energies in the Swiss industrial and service sector. What was the outcome of the project? It was, as I said, an 82-page comprehensive report that included a review of 90 papers and reports globally on the topic of behavioral science-informed energy policy, the identification and discussion of 12 key heuristics and biases that are sort of observable or testable with regards to demand-side energy policy, 6 behavioral levers that we identified that can be used to inform the catalog that I'm going to talk about in a couple of seconds, 11 concrete interventions that we presented, and now the planned 4 pilots that we'll start to conduct in 21. These 4 are sort of a subset of the 11 interventions, which itself were a subset of 25 we sort of presented to the team at the Swiss Federal Office of Energy and the different stakeholders beyond. The process for this project followed, you just mentioned it in the introduction briefly, a process that we've used to bring behavioral science into strategy and public policy called DRIVE. DRIVE is a framework that we developed in collaboration with some leading thinkers and academics in applied behavioral science, and that we've applied to almost all our projects in both private as well as public contexts. It is essentially a 5-step process that guides organizations from the definition phase. So what are the target behaviors we want to achieve? What is the target group we want to target, and how do we get there? What sort of considerations do we have to take into account, and what guidelines do we have to follow? To a research phase where we dive into the details of the behaviors and context that we can observe, an identification phase, a validation phase, which we'll start now, and an execution phase. This process has guided the whole 12-month interaction in this collaboration, and has revealed the following 4 insights and process steps here. First of all, as I said, we conducted quite extensive research. Overall, we reviewed 90 studies to understand what are the latest academic insights on how we can move individuals as well as individuals and organizations to a more conscious, a more efficient energy consumption, and how can we nudge them towards using more renewable energy sources. We added qualitative insights by conducting 15 in-depth interviews with a diverse sample of SMEs to understand the behaviors and contexts in more detail, and to see how the academic insights and all the learnings that we got from these academic insights and reviews can be applied in the context of Swiss SMEs. And then thirdly, we looked at the global best practice, at what has been done in the US, in the UK, in Canada, Australia, Eastern Europe, everywhere around the world, to some of the examples we've just seen before, actually, to move individuals and organizations and functions of organizations that have a say on the energy consumption and usage towards a more sustainable behavior. And this package of like 3 layers, academic insights, qualitative insights, and global best practice, has then sort of led us to this group of behavioral levers. And we sort of synthesized what we know from academia and what we know from the qualitative research in Switzerland and identify 6, here we call them behavioral levers, how we can leverage social norms, commitment devices, framing, labeling, defaults, feedback and reminders, as well as gamification approaches to nudge people and sort of to help people make better decisions when it comes to the choice of energy supply and the usage of energy overall. We also, and this is special as we're talking about SMEs and the complexity of social constructs in organizations, we were from the very beginning aware of the fact that this adds more complexity and that we need to identify target groups that have sort of an impact on organizational behaviors. And in regards to energy efficiency, this is mostly in the Swiss context, the energy suppliers, sort of simply put, the organizations generating and delivering energy to the organizations, consultants that help organizations to be more energy efficient or to sort of, buy the right solutions, get the right behaviors in place. And so we know that these consultants are important for us. Repairers, fixers of appliances and processes, as well as executives in the organizations, energy specialists within the organization, and just simply the employee level. Anybody working with a machine, a tool, or a process that has an impact on how the machine is run, how the process is used, how much energy is actually consumed. So from this research, we brought this into a synthesis of insights, and we then created guidelines that sort of selected and summarized the most important ethical procedural requirements for evidence-based policymaking. So sort of a general set of how do we now bring this into practice? All of what's been done in academia, all that we learned from the Swiss context, how do we pair them both up and can start implementing interventions in the Swiss context? And B, we identified and fitted these insights into the behaviors and hotspots in the environment of Switzerland and define the future validation steps together with the project group of the Swiss Federal Office of Energy. Last up, and as a result of this process, we had this catalogue where we ideated a long list of 25 behavioral science interventions, which were reviewed, discussed, looked at, evaluated with the project team, and then finalized in a detailed report about the do's and don'ts of applying behavioral insights in energy policy, the ethical and technical requirements, the sort of the process steps for conducting behavioral interventions in the field, and this selection of shortlisted intervention for the pilot phase in the coming year. I want to give you a quick look into that catalog. It is essentially, you can imagine like playing cards. It's a catalog that we ideated to be a simple deck of cards you can look through to say, what can we do to drive more energy efficient behaviors in the Swiss context? And here are a couple of ideas. One of the pilots we're going to start with, energy efficiency quick wins. We define what the target is, what the target group is, who we need to partner with, what sort of realization is possible in the Swiss context, what behavioral hotspots we target with this, and what category we can put this into. We also made a quick assumption on what the effort it looks like and what the expected impact will look like, as well as a description and an implementation plan for that. There's more detail on each of these interventions from this catalog, but just a quick look inside of the report here. Another one we will target is, many of you will know that, energy bills, the classic O-Power study from the UK and many other organizations around the world. This is, at least to our knowledge, never been applied to the complexity of organizations. And we propose here a first pilot where we start using social and past behavior comparison to also steer and stimulate more in-depth considerations about energy consumptions in organizations. I think I just close on this, and we can discuss in more questions, because that is, in my opinion, immediately applicable to all other contexts and other countries as well. Overall, it's been a great journey and a great starting point. We're starting with 4 different pilots this year. There are 7 more in the pipeline, as you've seen. There's much more research to be done there in Switzerland, but also everywhere around the world. So thank you for the opportunity to present this.
Thank you very much, Torben. A question in the chat already. Is the material public? Is the report available? I saw you already have something in English as well, so that'd be very interesting for our international audience.
Yes, the report will be available. It is not yet published. It's currently reviewed by the press office of the Swiss Federal Office of Energy. It will be published first up in German, but we are considering the translation into English as well, given that most of the insights and applications are for a global audience. And so we're happy to share once that's live, and happy to translate and give pointers to more research there as well.
Thank you very much, Torben. I don't see any other questions in the chat at the moment, but I do have one question, because we at the Austrian Energy Agency have a long-standing program working with SMEs as well, and one which is always coming up for us is how we can deliver behavioral aspects in energy efficiency measures without overburdening the SMEs, to get them on board, really. Do you have any experience on that?
Yeah, I mean, working with behavioral insights, you always have this interplay of friction and fuel. So making things simpler or harder. So we need to make the things we want them to do simpler. For example, if people reach out to get energy consulting and to have someone come into their office or to their facilities to talk about energy efficiency, we need to make that process as simple as possible. And for example, equip them with quick wins that have proven successful in other organizations of a similar type or size. Once this is a way we can make it really simple for people to take what they want inside and to apply better practices when it comes to energy efficiency. At the same time, we can make other things harder. So we can experiment with defaults, so that we start with an easy solution and a more sustainable solution to make it harder to show less efficient behaviors or less renewable sources of energy, for example. So for sure, it's a valid point, and it's something we discussed as well on the challenges of this project. It is certainly to get the involvement of SMEs. We're really confident that with some of the pilots and measures we've shown here, we can make it actually more easy, more comfortable for them, and still, or because of that even, achieve more energy efficient behaviors.
Thank you very much, Torben. We are unfortunately almost at the end of our session. It's only 5 minutes left, and then there's a break, and at 3 o'clock there are further sessions starting, which I'm part of. There's one more question in the chat. May I read that out to you? And it's from Kana Dubey. She's asking, are you considering the initiatives by energy supply companies in supporting behavior changing consumers?
I don't know if I get that question the right way, or if I understand it correctly. I'm assuming if we're partnering with energy supply companies to shape that behavior in organizations, yes, we actively do. So I'm just switching back here one slide. Nope, it doesn't allow me to do that. So the slide I showed, where we show the Energy Bill 2.0, the O-Power application for a context of organizations, we actively do this in partnership with an energy supply company, because this is a system problem. It's not going to be solved with individual activities. It's always going to be solved with a collaborative approach, including supply agents, federal offices, and local researchers. And we're definitely taking into account all pieces of that puzzle in that next step.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we really have to move on to closing up this session. Thank you very much to all the presenters. Adrianna, could you maybe open our presentation again from the INA and jump to the last slide?
Yes.
Thank you very much. From the European Energy Network for the Working Group on Behavior Change, I would like to tell you that we do have a website and where you can also find some further details on our work, and specifically also in regard to our work to the working group on behavior change, and we would like for any of the participants, to get in contact with us for further collaboration between energy agencies, social scientists, but also from the private sector. We are, as a network, interested in joining consortiums. We are elaborating ideas and handing in project proposals. So please do get in contact. You can find the contacts to the different working groups on our website, enrnetwork.org, and obviously through Irmeli Mikkonen from Motiva for the behavior change. The booklet, the catalogue of best practices in behavior change, we teased that already in the beginning, and Adrianna from the Energy Saving Trust gave us a good overview. This catalogue is already available for download. It is very well elaborated, and I think you will find good examples there as well. And also, obviously, we described also things which didn't work or didn't go according to plan. So please do have a look at that. And as a last remark from my side, I would like to point you to another ENR session tomorrow, which is from 10:30 till 12. It's the session 4C, the road to net zero. What can energy agencies learn from behavioral science? And for this, we have breakout sessions on 3 different topics. The first breakout session is in regard to behavioral insights into energy policy making. The second breakout session is in regard to energy sufficiently implications for attitudes and values. And the third breakout session is in regard to engaging with vulnerable target groups. So please do join us in this session tomorrow from 10:30 till 12 o'clock. The session is 4C. Well, from my side, I would like to thank all the speakers. Thank you very much for taking your time and sharing your valuable insights. Thank you very much for all the participants. And I had a lot of fun moderating it. I did learn quite a lot as well. I hope you did as well. And yeah, see you hopefully at the session 4C. And if you do want to get in contact with us, do that through our website or contact us directly. Thank you very much, and enjoy the next session, which will start at 3 o'clock. Thank you.